Hello and welcome to the MovieKing Podcast. My name is David Jurmann and I'll be your host. On today's episode, I'm going to review the film Avatar: Fire and Ash. I know I'm a bit late to reviewing this film. It was a bit chaotic with all the holidays, but I'm finally ready to talk about it. And in case you've been living under a rock, the Avatar movies are some of the biggest releases of all time. The amount of money just two of them have made is ridiculous, and it's crazy. And the third one is tracking to make a lot of money as well, probably at least $1.5 billion. And it's kind of interesting because while the first two movies were up for Oscars, including Best Picture, overall reviews are nothing to run home about, and they don't have much staying power past their theatrical releases. I've heard a lot of people talk about Avatar over the last couple months, but let's be honest, before Fire and Ash came out, when was the last time you heard someone talking about the first Avatar or The Way of Water outside of how much money they made? And with that being said, I do really enjoy these movies. I like them a lot. I also just don't give much thought to them after they leave theaters. But in the moment, I love watching them on the big screen and talking about them afterwards. They're really enjoyable movies in the moment, but I haven't really felt an urge to watch Avatar or The Way of Water on my TV before Fire and Ash. I only went to go see, both of those movies in theaters when they had re-releases. And that was unrelated to watching them, for the first time, but I'm saying for as far as rewatches go, that's the only time I ever wanted to see them again. I didn't really want to watch The Way of Water on TV or the first Avatar. I was just if they're in theaters, I want to watch them there. And look, as far as theatrical experiences go, these are second to none. When people talk about movies that need to be experienced in theaters, these are the ones they're talking about, especially in IMAX or Dolby, and definitely in 3D. And these are must-see 3D events. If you're not seeing this movie in 3D, I'm sorry, you're watching it wrong. Even people who hate 3D will tell you you have to see this movie in 3D. But as for Fire and Ash as a movie, I think this is a really solid film. One common complaint I've heard from people is that it's the same movie as The Way of Water. For those who don't know, James Cameron has actually stated that The Way of Water and Fire and Ash were originally supposed to be one movie, but then he decided to split the two later on. And I'll say this, they are similar movies. This new one definitely feels like a continuation of everything from the last one, but I don't think that's really a bad thing. I mean, one of the bigger problems with this movie is that at times it does feel like we're repeating certain beats from the last movie, but I saw it more as paying off what was set up in the last one, not as much about being a copy and paste of it. And for the most part, I enjoyed a lot of this movie. It's epic, it's exciting, it's beautiful to look at. I think a lot of the characters are at their best here too. I thought the first movie the characters were fine, they were serviceable. I thought The Way of Water, introduced a lot more interesting characters, and, they kind of made the parents, the original characters from the first one go to the side a bit more. We were focused more on the teenagers and the kids in the second one, and here I think we get a nice mix of both. But Spider, who I didn't really care about very much in the last one, has a good storyline here. Kiri gets some very exciting revelations. She's probably my favorite character in both 2 and 3. Jake and Neytiri have compelling drama. Loak has one of the more well-done examples of the misunderstood teen trope I've seen in a while. And the villain Miles has his best storyline yet as well. The Fire Clan is one part of the movie I'm a bit disappointed about because they have such a good setup. The way they were kind of introduced, I was like, wow, this is really cool. I'm very hyped to see where they go with this. And, I thought the main threat, the main leader of them was so cool. But I felt that in general, the whole clan was, very underused. And the characters were kind of underdeveloped. And they just didn't leave that much of an impact like I was hoping they would. And especially when you have, such a long movie, you would hope for a little more out of these characters. I didn't really feel like we got as much as we should have. Maybe in the future they'll be more important. I don't know. But I think just naming the movie after them especially, is a bit of a disservice to how much they're really, part of the movie. But really, the visuals and characters are what keep this 3+ hour movie engaging. It's ridiculous just how much work goes into these movies and how much money too, because these things cost $400 million. But just to bring this fictional place to life as impressively as it does. I mean, this is one of the most beautiful, like, great looking movies I've ever seen. It's such a good movie visually, and, I just can't fathom how it's done. I mean, I've heard people say it on the internet too, but this franchise Avatar is like the total definition of movie magic. Like, you cannot figure out how they pulled this off, how it looks as good as it does, especially when a lot of it was just filmed in a studio. Like, they were filmed, just on a soundstage, without like a ton of props, without a ton of, visuals to work with. Like, they were just kind of imagining the whole thing. I mean, this movie's very largely animated and done through motion capture, and it's really impressive what they pulled off. And this movie can feel a bit long, but it's still entertaining, and James Cameron is a master at cinematic filmmaking on this level. And look, do I wish these movies were a bit more original? Yeah. Do I wish they all felt a bit more different from each other? I do. But are these enjoyable movies? Absolutely. They're more like traditional blockbusters from like early 90s, 2000s, like just very simple movies that anyone can digest and accept and, appreciate. And they all have a good message about saving animals and the environment, which is a plus. It's nothing like very special. And I think like the message is very straightforward and they're all the same in every movie, but it's like you can still enjoy it for what it is. It's like Top Gun. It's like not a very complicated movie, but still very enjoyable nonetheless. And if you didn't like the other Avatar movies, I'm just going to say this one won't change your mind. It's basically the same as the others. But if you did like the other Avatar films, this is definitely a worthwhile journey back into this world for you, and especially in theaters. It's so beautiful to look at. And, will I want to rewatch this movie on TV? Probably not, like, similar to the other ones, but do I want to go see it again in theaters? Heck yeah, I do. I want to go watch it again before it leaves, because it's such a great theatrical experience. It's so good in that way. But I do think this is a good movie. In the first half, I was actually pretty convinced this would be my favorite in the trilogy. The way some things wrapped up wasn't completely satisfying, though, so I think it might be in second place now. But I do love how dark the movie gets at points. I didn't expect it to go in certain places that it did. But look, the movie's good. We'll see how well it does, depending on how much money this thing makes. We may get Avatar 4 and 5, which has already been, planned by James Cameron. I think those movies have been written already. So we'll see if we actually do get those. But even if it doesn't, this movie kind of works as a send-off, kind of in a way of like, if they decided to stop here, you could pretty much accept it. Like, there may be a few open-ended things that you're like, oh, I would have liked to see where that went. But just as like a story, you can end it here if they wanted to. So don't feel like, if they don't make another Avatar 4, if they decide to cancel Avatar 4 and 5, like, don't feel like you can't watch this movie. You absolutely can. It's a really solid movie. So, yeah, go check out Avatar Fire and Ash, especially in 3D if you can. I'm going to rate it a B+. And that about does it for this episode. If you want to follow my reviews, you can find me on Letterboxd and MovieKing1224. You can also listen to this podcast on your favorite apps such as Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. If you have any comments or feedback, I would love to hear it and improve this show. And of course, if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell to hear more like it. I appreciate you all so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.